Hello, students. This is Professor Robert Pickford here at San Diego Mesa College, and welcome to the summer 2025 edition of English 101. The class will run 8 weeks, and for the most part, everything that would be in the normal 16-week semester class is in this class. So you'll need to really stay on top of things to succeed in the class. And I've set up some tools to help you stay lined up with that. But let me go on with my introduction to the course. And at least 3 times a week, this is where you'll land when you log on to the class. At the beginning of each week, I put a note here to you that kind of introduces the week and what we're into that week. This one is regarding the textbooks. Be sure to read through it before you order textbooks from the bookstore. Please do not order them from any online source that'll take weeks and weeks to deliver the books, because you will not have them in time for the assignments, and they are required reading. You can't do the assignments correctly without them. So I want to be emphatic about that, okay? And at the beginning of each week, besides my little note on what we're up to that week, there is also kind of a to-do list. And the typical pattern is you'll see what you need to be reading Tuesday if you haven't already logged on Monday, and a little note about where to see the layout for the rest of the week. So I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And then there'll be a first discussion posting. On Thursday, there are 2 of those a week. The second one's on Saturday. There'll also be a required response to a classmate's posting most of the time on Saturdays, and that's by midnight. There'll also be 3 questions I'll ask you about the reading. So remember what I just said about the textbooks. You'll want to be dialed in with those. And remember that those quizzes are open book, so you can have the required reading up on your computer as you answer the questions. And I put next week's reading here on Saturday, just in case you'd like to read ahead. Probably not a bad idea. And let me explain why. I'm going over here to the calendar page on Canvas. And this is pretty handy, especially if you're taking more than one class. You'll want to put them all on the calendar here to see what weeks you need to pre-prepare for anything. Okay, that's it for June, 2 weeks. And as you work through the class, you'll see July here. And by the way, these are all of the assignments for the class. I don't get in the details of the reading assignments yet, because one builds on the other. But you'll see all of the assigned reading, and you'll see due dates for all assignments. So my best advice is to either start here or start on the home page, but be sure to go both places, just to get your bearings for the week. Let's bump back over to our class, the main part of it anyway. And you'll see that here on the modules page are a bunch of class materials, including free access to one of the textbooks, Strategic Thinking and Complex Problem Solving by Arnold Chevalier. We'll start reading that next week, but as you saw a minute ago on the home page, I told you what you might want to start reading over this coming weekend. And be sure to open my offer here about getting them free. Well, one you've already gotten free. That's this one, right there on the text page. The other book, you can't get all of it free unless you go to Google and find an earlier edition, which might be okay. But the library does own this book, and the librarians will scan them, excuse me, and send the chapters to you that you need. And you'll need the first 3 chapters right away. And here's the request form for that scanning and the information you may need to give them. Elsewhere on the modules page, you'll see reading guides for strategic thinking and complex problem solving. This chapter 1 reading guide you'll want to take a good look at before you actually read the chapter. And that's reading for next week. But like I said, if you want to get a jump on things, you can go ahead. The writer's toolbox is where I put tools you use for the writing in the class. Right now it's a little empty, but it'll fill up, believe me. And web links, which I'll explain as we come along. This screencast that you're listening to right now will show up here, as will all the others for the class. Let's go to the rules and regulations and policies for the class. That's the syllabus. That's your reading for this week. Big part of it. There's also a reading from one of the other textbook. They Say, I Say. That's chapter 1. But here's the syllabus anyway. And you'll want to read all the way through it. Now I'm just going to give you a couple of key highlights here. Here are the requirements. Weekly online class discussions, and like I said, 2 posts and 1 response to a classmate's post each week. Reading quizzes, those 3 question jobs are the reading quizzes. And you'll see that the writing assignments are broken down into short ones and long ones. There's also a draft requirement on one of the longer ones called the Deeper Look. And you'll also need to do a draft response for the last major assignment, Beyond the Deeper Look. And this explains how they're all evaluated and what they're worth and everything else. Late assignments, let me draw your attention to that. I don't accept them. I will make 1 exception to that rule, and only 1. You can turn in 1 late as long as it is no longer than 4 days late. Okay? And you'll want to read the rest of this in detail. And if you are in the class and getting everything done, you should be fine. Here on the assignments page, I've got that class discussion I just mentioned where you are going to post twice during the week and respond to a classmate's posting. Here are the 3 questions on chapter 1, and They Say, I Say. And of course, what isn't here is what I just showed you, the syllabus. That's also a required reading for the week. So let's go back to our starting point, a good place to close off our presentation today. And yeah, you'll want to read the class syllabus. right there, the Thursday discussion gets into the class syllabus. And then that chapter, and they say, I say, for Saturday's discussion, posting and response to a classmate's posting. That's pretty much it so far. There's something going on in the class that I'll explain next week. I don't want to keep you in suspense, but this class requires one large project, and we're going to get at it in bits as we go through the class. It'll improve your reading, your writing, obviously, the writing assignments, and your critical thinking. And save that for next week. I'll do another screencast next week and give you the details. But this is a good entry point into the class. I don't want to send you down that rabbit hole. Let's just get to what we have to do this week. And by the way, if you ever have a question about a class requirement or assignment, see this discussions link here? Besides the class discussion that I mentioned, you'll also see a place to ask questions. I'm going to open it. Not only can you ask a question, you can pick up points equal to a short answer question on the weekly reading quiz. Or even more if you answer a classmate's question correctly before I do. So keep that in mind. And again, if you have questions about anything like assignments or course policies or requirements, this is the place. Now, if you have a personal question about your grades or a problem you're having, you'll want to head over here to the inbox. That's kind of our built-in mail system, messaging system right there. And I'll respond to you. Okay? Have a great week, this first week of the class. I'm looking forward to getting to know each one of you as thinkers and writers. Take care.